Hey everybody, what's going on? I hope you've had a really nice week number 9 in the semester, and I hope you're ready for a new challenge. This video will explain sort of where we've been and where we're headed, and give you some pointers as you think about your next assignment. I was really impressed in reading your user test reports, and I'm really thrilled to see the types of feedback people were able to get from that experience, and I hope that you can see the value of actually testing your writing with a real reader. There's really no way to recreate that. You get to see things in real time with a real person, and that's really, that's the end all be all when it comes to getting feedback. And I know that by doing that, even if the things that you found were relatively small, they're going to lead to a better set of instructions. And as I've said, we're writing about relatively trivial things here. We're writing about how to change the oil in your car and things like that. But if you extrapolate that and put that in the workplace environment, and you start to think about the ramifications these procedures could have, or procedural writing could have for your employers, we start to really think about and see how this could affect the bottom line. Things like safety, efficiency, productivity, consistency of a product or a service. And so procedural writing is really important, and testing your instructions is an integral part of that. What I'm planning to do is, in the next 24 hours or so, I'm going to be reading your instructions and giving you feedback. My sense is, or my hope is, that they're going to be really good, and the types of feedback that I'm able to give or am going to be giving will be really sort of fine-tuning and really kind of nitpicky, because by this point you should have a really good sense of what your instructions will be like. And just to give you a sense of the things that I'm really going to focus on when I review your instructions, I'm going to look at your staging and make sure that you have the right person in the right place with the right stuff. I'm going to make sure that that's written in a clear, easy-to-read manner. I'm going to look at your coaching and make sure that you're doing everything that you can to really guide your reader through the process, not just to get them from point A to point B, but to get them from point A to point B as efficiently, effectively, safely, and consistently as possible, anticipating their questions, using precise language, not overwhelming them with too much information, being really careful about your jargon, all the things that we've been talking about. And I'm going to look at alerting. So I'm going to look at those 3 things, and that's fundamentally how I'm going to generate my feedback. I'm also going to look to see if there are places where you can integrate images or integrate crap to make your document even easier to read and use. So that's really where we're at with the instructions, and then you'll have time to turn those around and submit a revision. It's a very important assignment this semester, and my sense is that you folks are really giving it its just time and effort. So while we're doing that, in the effort of kind of keeping our feet moving and keeping moving forward, we're going to move into another assignment which is much smaller in scale and scope, and that is what I call the safety fact sheet assignment. And this assignment really came from work that I've done in various workplaces, in particular Central Maine Power, where I found that these types of safety briefs or safety notes or safety memos are really important in keeping employees safe, which obviously, again, affects the bottom line. And you'll see that I think it'll leave no doubt for you that there's an array of topics that you could write about here. But fundamentally, what your goal is with this assignment is to create a one-page informational sheet that educates somebody, informs them about a health or safety-related issue that's common in your particular workplace. Now, that could be your current workplace, or your future workplace, or it could even be a past workplace. I don't really care about that, but we're really doing career-oriented, vocationally oriented, workplace-oriented writing here. So I'd really like to avoid things related to hobbies, and we're really going to look at what things look like in the workplaces that you've all occupied. And so your goal with this document, as I've said, is to write to coworkers, so that's necessarily going to impact what you do. If you're writing about carpal tunnel syndrome in an office setting, you're going to have to write about it in a way that the average person can understand. You're going to find tons of scientific and medical information out there that talks about all sorts of crazy stuff, but your job is going to be to translate that and to turn that into something that a reader can actually use and implement. So you're going to have to really focus on educating them about the topic and also helping them prevent injuries. So just to give you a sense of what people have written about preventing rotator cuff injuries, preventing accidental slips and falls, working in confined spaces, ladder safety, working with stuff that has noxious fumes, carbon monoxide poisoning. I mean, there's a whole array of things that you could write about. Food safety and sanitation, working with sharps, donning and doffing personal protective equipment. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can write about. And again, I don't expect you to reinvent the wheel about this. What I do expect you to do is be able to conduct really good research, get really good information, translate and simplify that information so that you can fit it onto one really nice, easy to read page, and then deliver that with the hopes of preventing these types of injuries. And again, I got this assignment from Central Maine Power, where many of their former linemen are elevated to what are called safety supervisors, where they then have to produce these on a regular basis because they're really trying to keep safety in the forefront of their employees' minds. And I think one of the things that you want to think about is that in your own experience, when you've been handed something like this, how do you read it? What are your first reactions? My guess is that it's one of these things that it's very easy for us to take for granted and not read or take seriously. And so part of your job in writing this should be to capture and engage the reader's attention. And we can think about and investigate ways that you might do that. But I think that it's important to consider that you're going to have a pretty reluctant reader here. You're not in a situation where the reader's going to come to this excited to read it. It's probably going to be something that they get during a busy day and that they have to read really quickly. So I will be sharing some examples of that, and those examples should just serve as inspiration. Don't think of them as templates. Don't think of them as something that you have to follow to the T. There's a million different ways that you can approach this assignment, and that's really what I think is fun about it. But at the end of the day, you're going to learn not only how to research on the web, which is a major component of what this week's lessons are about. We're going to practice simplifying, synthesizing, and summarizing information to put onto a page. So you're going to have to, again, think about formatting. You're going to have to think about the order in which you present information, the hierarchy of information, what is the most important, least important. You're going to have to think about headings and how you're going to compartmentalize information, which I think is also a skill that we've been practicing. And then we are going to talk about, at the end of this, we are going to talk about citation. And so I will be creating a video about that, but I just want you to know that we're not going to get really deep into the formal citation systems that maybe you've had in other classes like MLA citation or APA citation. Since this is a really vocationally oriented class and a very career-oriented class, I want to talk about citation in really practical ways, not academic ways. And so we're going to talk about the value of citing your work and ways to do it within a workplace setting. Now, that being said, if you do want to, if you have aspirations to go on academically for a 4-year degree, or you work in a field where having experience with APA citation or MLA citation is important, you can certainly do that, and I will pass along some resources relative to those two things. But the goal here is to research a topic: carpal tunnel syndrome, rotator cuff injuries, electrocution, accidental falls, ladder safety, working in confined spaces. Sort of understand the various perspectives and the state of the art, the best information you can have about that. Think about how you want to present that to a reader, an audience of coworkers, and then really sort of create a document that educates and leads to prevention. And that's really what we're up against this week. So be on the lookout for our comments on our instructions. If you have questions about those, concerns about those, I write something that's not clear or you're not sure what to do, certainly you can reach out to me. I'm happy to meet you and work with you on those types of things. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that you should pick a topic for this safety fact sheet that you have a genuine interest in, something that you think you're going to be confronted with on a day-to-day basis. And I think that you'll find through the research process you're bound to learn things that will be valuable to you. And I think you're going to create a document that will be really helpful in a lot of ways. You're going to learn a lot of practical and valuable skills about this because you're going to be doing very targeted research, trying to find high-quality, credible, useful information, and you're going to really have to practice synthesizing and summarizing, which are very important skills. So that's what we're up against. If you need anything at all, you have my number, you have my email address. Reach out to me, but we're going to get through this week just fine, and I really look forward to producing really great instructions and fact sheets with you. Great, thanks a lot.